So Hafide and Tiro, welcome to the University of Guam School of Business and Public Administration's 2021 Fanyam SBPA Dean Speaker Series. My name is Julian Briosos. I am one of the academic advisors here at SBPA, joined by my colleagues who are in the same room, Mr. Jaron Ugin and Ms. Iris Lapid. And now before we bring up our special guests and invite the Dean to say a few words, I'd like to first recognize some people in the room with us today. So we have our Dean, Dr. Annette Santos. Hi, Dean.
Buenas.
We also have some faculty members. We got Dr. Ancito Walter. And we also Dr. Pamela Peralta is in the room with us today. And that looks like it's there. Okay, so, all right, so now before we have our special guest, Representative Sheila Babauta, take the stage. I'd like to introduce the reason we're all here, the Dean of the School of Business and Public Administration, Dr. Annette T. Santos. Dean, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Julian and team, for coordinating all of these efforts. I'm really excited today. Hafide, Tiro, and buenas, everyone. I just want, before I get into the gist of our event, to extend my best wishes to each and every one of you for your continued good health and safety during this period of recovery. I know that as we loosened things up, we're still trying to, find our groove, and we're seeing some numbers grow. So I think this is an opportunity for us to exercise responsibility and to just be extra careful these days and not fall too casual into our normal ways of doing things. We still need to exercise wearing our masks, washing our hands, and exercising social distancing. So please exercise those behaviors responsibly. I also want to express my profound gratitude to all those at the front lines who are serving so selflessly during this public health crisis. So with our island culture and values guiding our behaviors, we can certainly count on everyone to act responsibly during this time. Times like this actually force us to think about how we continue with our responsibilities and commitments. We have learned to be innovative, resourceful, and strong. Despite the many uncertainties that confront us, we have a chart to path forward. Each of us, we have goals, and we have commitments, and so we want to keep our eyes on that and stay focused. Everyone ought to support each other during this time and help each other adjust to the evolving conditions of our environment. And many of us are confronted with this question of how will we choose to respond in these times? And it's the question that I've been posing to these leaders in our local and regional community to answer. Our life experience shape how we see things and how we choose to respond. So we have much to learn from the leaders that we bring onto the Dean Speaker Series. Before I introduce the speaker, I want to let you know that at the School of Business and Public Administration, our role is even more important during times like this. We must be forward-thinking and solution-centric. Our faculty, our academic programs and activities focus on providing these type of experiences that are relevant, that are meaningful, and of high quality. So every semester, I host the Dean Speaker Series in which distinguished local and regional leaders and professionals are featured. Apropos to the current environment, I've asked our speakers to frame their talk around the theme leading through uncertainty and building resilience. The Dean Speaker Series is integral to the climate of learning at SBPA. And through the Dean Speaker Series, there's a great opportunity to integrate theory with practice through the presentations of our speakers and the discussions and interactions that follow. So I encourage you to take notes, jot down questions, and participate in the conversation. Each of you has a unique opportunity to engage directly with our speaker, who possesses intimate and fundamental knowledge of the local and regional environment. The speaker series offers a great learning opportunity if you welcome it. So I invite you to be curious, to ask questions, to share your thoughts and comments. And on that note, it is my pleasure to welcome CNMI Representative Sheila Babauta, our featured speaker today, and all of you to today's speaker series. And on that note, I'm going to turn it back to Julian, and maybe Julian, I don't know if you want to highlight the background of Representative Babauta, or maybe just allow her to do that as she's introduced to our participants today. Representative Babauta, so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. I am so humbled to be here with you, and I'm so excited for today. I love being in the classroom, and nowadays we have the virtual classrooms, and so when I got your invitation, I was very, very happy and so excited to connect with my family on Guam. So thank you so much for having me. I just want to welcome everyone, thank everyone for making time to join us today in this space where we can share ideas and where we can learn more about one another, and where you can learn about me and what I do and how I contribute to my community and our Marianas at large. Okay, so we're gonna get started. Yesterday we did an internet test run, and on the Hill at my work at the legislature, we're having some technical difficulties, and so I had to find alternative spaces. So thank you to the UOG team for being so flexible. That is definitely a leadership trait that is, it's just profound. Adaptability, flexibility, it is something that I'm constantly working on, and something I encourage you to work on as well, because life is a roller coaster. And so the faster you can adapt, then the more successful you will become. So let's see if Iris, I'm gonna be doing this. Great, thank you, Iris. So Iris is going to be helping me with the slideshow, and every time I make this pushing a button motion, she's going to change the slides. Iris, you're so special, thank you. Okay, let's get started. So this is me, Sheila Jack Babauta.
She's so pretty.
I was born and raised on the beautiful island of Saipan. These are my parents, Diego Babauta and Dolorina Babauta. They brought me to the beach a lot. And this is my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. We called her Nono Car, Nono Carmina Wilbacker Jack. She's Castrayan, Ponapean, and was a retired nurse and midwife. She taught me values of humility, respect, generosity, kindness, and love. She is my inspiration, and I'm sure that you have an inspiration too. Growing up, we didn't have much, as you can tell by me hanging there from a rope. We didn't have the latest, fanciest, most expensive things, but we were resourceful. And for the most part, I was a happy child. My parents instilled in me the importance of hard work and education. Here I am at my 6th grade promotion ceremony at GCC Elementary School. I was Stuco president. I am a proud product of the public school system, and I was Stuco president at Chacha Junior High School as well. I went on to attend Cagman High School, where I got to travel to the East Coast for the first time. I visited places like New York City and Pennsylvania and Virginia, and that was through the Close-Up program, and made many friends. And that was really my first introduction to government and to politics, because we visited Capitol Hill, we visited the Library of Congress, we visited the White House, well, the outside, but that was still a big thing coming from a small place like Saipan. I continued my education in Hawaii at Kapi'olani Community College and the University of Hawai'i at Manoa, the Scheidler College of Business, where I majored in finance and international business. I got 2 bachelor's degrees and spent 5 years acquiring that. And then I gained more experience in the state of Washington as a financial advisor's aide. And I started a small business where I really aimed to share the Hafaday spirit one bite at a time. And I really, really loved it there. I did stay in touch with my parents because, you know, we as islanders, we travel so far away to attain higher education, right? And gain experience, and we're thousands of miles away. So it was really important for me to stay connected to my family, my parents, and of course, my siblings. So I am the second eldest of 5, and I love my siblings so much. They're such a great support system. And it was during one of my visits home that I realized how much I missed Saipan and how much I really wanted to move home. I was already gone for 10 years after high school, and so I did. And so I did move home, and I got involved with the Marianas Young Professionals. I enjoyed our beaches and participated in major community events. I volunteered all the time. And right here is a meeting we were having for the Marianist March Against Cancer. It's one of our biggest events on the island where we raise funds for cancer awareness and cancer patients. And I volunteered with various organizations. For this one, it was with the Talabog Stars of Tanapeg. I also made it a point to explore my island and get to know her again as an adult this time. And so I explored everything from our caves to, you know, going to new beaches that I've never been to before. And I continued to advocate for young professionals as a board member of the Marianas Young Professionals. And so exploring my island was so important to me. And I was so amazed at how beautiful our natural resources were, how beautiful my home was, and just how special it was to me and to many others. I continued to just stay connected to the community while I worked. This was during my first year home. It was a goal of mine to really explore every part of Saipan. And it was through that exploration and connectedness to my community that, you know, I really got to learn and see the not so beautiful sides of Saipan, like the marine debris that is just scattered all over our beaches, making us feel hopeless about, you know, what we can do about it. And it was through this exploration and connectedness that I got to see unregulated, you know, beach accessibility and tourist activities and mismanagement of public lands and resources, causing the community to start petitions and causing the community to reach out to their leaders. Everything from our beaches being polluted by our tourists or having tourist-related pollution to unsustainable development. And this is where I really had the fire lit under me, because we had so many unsustainable proposed developments for my precinct. And in the north, we are the largest precinct where we have many, many untouched, pristine, beautiful sites. When you visit Saipan, you will guarantee make a visit to the north side. because that is where we have our historical and our monumental sites for our tourists to come visit. And those are the photos we put on the pamphlets and on all the advertisements. So I started attending public hearings to learn more about these developments that were happening. And I started, voicing my concerns and my questions. And I helped create a petition because there were 7 zoning applications in my precinct alone. And that was alarming. That was too much, too fast, and we were not ready for it. If our own people, our residents, had difficulty accessing water and power and having reliable sources of basic needs, how were we going to provide for thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of tourists? And so that was my major concern. But, even with the community support, it passed. Even with the community support to deny these applications, it passed. And for those applications that required legislative approval, I made my way to Capitol Hill. As you can see here, I was a regular citizen, just coming up, a concerned citizen, coming up to plead with my legislators and to make a public comment for the record, which is so important, for them to just consider the community's wants and needs for their own village. And even with that, it still passed. So even with denied applications, community outrage, things were still moving along, and I just couldn't quite understand. But I realized that that's where I needed to be. I needed to be in that room, and I needed to assess my risk. I had a government job at the time, and if I ran for office, I would have to give that up. I would have to give up my comfortable paycheck, and I would have to, run a campaign for the first time ever, not knowing anything about politics, because I did not grow up around politics. And so, I assess my risk, but I can relate to this statement very much, because I believe so much that our lives are so short, and taking risk and making that leap is so important to living your life. And so that's what I did. I gained the support of my family and my friends, and I got a great team together, and we started planning, and we started mapping out my precinct. So you can see in this map, precinct 4, my precinct is the blue. It's colored there in blue, and it is the largest precinct in regards to land mass, not in regards to voters. But that's what was so special to me, that my precinct, the place where I was raised, has the most land that is unacquired, and it has not been designated for any kind of development. Public land, I'm talking about public land, undesignated public land. So I thought that was very special. And I also thought that having the Northern Islands be part of my precinct was super special, because I've never visited, right? And so it includes all of our Northern Islands here. The CNMI is made up of 14, and we currently have representatives for Saipan, Tinian, and Rota. So the 11 other islands are considered uninhabitable or uninhabited at the moment. And it's very difficult to get up there. Transportation is restricted. It's almost impossible. It's very hard for our elderly and our youth to travel. So those are some long-term vision and some long-term goals that I have in mind for our Commonwealth and for our Marianas, so that we can all travel inner island freely and affordably. And so I made the announcement to run for office, to run for the House of Representatives. And, you know, people were sending me photos of them looking it up online or reading the articles. So they were showing their support for me. And I filed for my petition for candidacy as an independent candidate. So many family members and friends, they came out to support me and to just cheer me on. And it is so humbling. There's nothing I've ever experienced in my life as humbling as asking someone to support you in your vision and in your goals for contributing to your community. It was and still is a very humbling experience. And I really could not have done any of it without my parents and without my chairman and my chairwoman, John and Susan Babauta. They were instrumental in planning and strategizing. And so getting your good A team together is so important. So the campaign work continued. Signs were made. I got involved with that. Signs were put up and went all around my precinct. Debates were organized for the first time in a long time, but I love debates. And, you know, I started attending all these events to go around and spread the message. And people were posting their support for me, which was so encouraging. And I felt motivated. These are my nieces who came to support me at the debate. I always love having the youth around. I continued to do what I was doing, you know, getting involved with community efforts and organizations and making my house visits. House visits are so important. So I went around the village, met people, reintroduced myself to others, planned my own fundraisers. You know, running a campaign is not cheap, and continued to just stay connected and serve the youth and be around our youth. They give me so much energy. Staying involved with political events here, like fundraisers that highlight candidates. This was one for all the female candidates. And then, you know, staying involved and around and being in the space of past, present, and future politicians, especially female politicians. So in this photo, you'll see your now governor, Lulian Guerrero. This was her fundraiser on Saipan. Representative Tina Sablan is also here, and we now serve together again for the second term. This is our Congressman Kilili Sablan. So, you know, this is our former Congresswoman Felicidad Gomero. So having these minds to tap into and ask questions and share ideas was so important to me during the campaign trail, because they have the experience that I don't. And so how else am I going to get it other than experiencing it myself? I need to go and ask. So, you know, we did the wavings, we did more fundraisers, and it's just a lot of energy. And then Typhoon Yutu hit, and that was major blow. It was a major blow to the CNMI. And I just continued to do what I did. My dad is such a huge super supporter. He got all the signs down, and they're heavy and big signs. He and my chairman, my team, they went and collected all of our signs and secured them before the typhoon hit. And then afterwards, I just continued to serve my community. So it was almost like, you know, I was doing what I was used to, and that was volunteering and helping out in any way that I could. So this is us giving some free food to our community, We gathered supplies, we distributed supplies, we distributed over 30,000 meals, we did cleanups, we got our board members, Frank and I served on the board together at the Marianas Young Professionals. You know, we stopped at laundromats and handed out food because we knew they were waiting in line there to wash their clothes. We gave out free clothes for those who had their things damaged. We received donations. You know, this was like the extreme level of community connectedness is during the recovery phase. And this was my first typhoon in like 20 years because I was gone and I did not experience Sodalor. But this was such a beautiful experience for me to be a part of because I got to see that connectedness at the most extreme level, where everybody puts everything aside and we just focus on recovery. And we want to help everybody, regardless of your age, race, nationality, sexual identity. You know, the goal was to get everyone okay, right? To check up on your neighbor and to just make sure everyone was okay. And I thought that was such a special experience. And so during the recovery efforts, election day came and I had to multitask. So election day was here. You know, I continued to ask for support. Using social media platforms was so powerful. My friends came out to wave for me. My family was out there supporting me. I had legislators endorsing me online, and you know, the momentum was there. I had this is my mentor, one of my mentors. He is now a senator, Vinny Sablon, who's always been so supportive. And I had people putting their, you know, their confidence and faith in me out there in the public. And so, you know, this statement here is something that I carry near and dear to my heart because I believe in this so much. So I had to remain positive. I had to feel happy and excited for the future, no matter the outcome, right? But I also had to imagine myself as a winner. And that's exactly what happened. And so we waved. If you can go back to the last slide, just because we skipped that a little too quickly. This is Inauguration Day, and it was just such a special time. It was my first time, right, to become an elected official. And so then we waved and we thanked all of our supporters. My parents and my chairman and chairwoman were there. We attended the inaugural mass and events that were forthcoming. We celebrated, and here's one of my youngest supporters at the inauguration. And, you know, we just sat and cried, and we're just so happy for the victory. And then it was, you know, back to work, right? The work continued. And I felt like the work continued and it was something that I was already doing. There's no handbook when you become a legislator, when you become a representative, when you become a leader, there's no handbook. But I was now doing it in my official capacity. I was doing what I was already doing, only now in my official capacity, representing, you know, my CNMI, our Marianas. And that trip that I took in high school, the close-up trip that exposed me to government, they contacted me to become an alumni spotlight, like feature. So I was very happy about that, full circle, you know. I continue to support programs that are important to me. This is 500 Sales, founded by Pete and Emma Perez, and Art de Oro is the chairman, and he's right there. And I love their mission. I support what they're doing for our community, and so I just now do it in my official capacity. I support the humanities and our youth. I adopted a youth center in Tanafeg, and that was really fun. Continue to support the schools and, you know, all the events that happen there and continue to raise awareness and funds for cancer. Here we welcome the Nanmarki, who is the High Chief of Pohnpei, to the island of Saipan. And it's so important to me that I not only stay connected to my community here on Saipan and in the Commonwealth, but of course, in our region. And so I was very happy to know that he arrived. That's the youth center. And here is the captain, a female captain, who helped me and the mayor's office of the Northern Islands get to the Northern Islands. So I was able to visit Pagan, Agrigan, and Alamangan. And man, what a strenuous trip, but it was so worth it. You are definitely off the grid. Look at our beautiful black sands. I learned so much about our natural resources. I learned how special it was. I just learned how blessed we are to be stewards of this land. When we were traveling up north, I was told that, you know, on the way up, they pointed out a white beach. And I thought like, okay, another white beach. And, you know, the mayor said, no, that's it. I pointed that out to you because that's the only white beach in the Northern Islands. Everything else is black sand. And I was shocked. I had no idea. Why wasn't I taught this in school? So I continued to, you know, make connections, meet people. This is Rear Admiral Shoshana Chatfield when she was stationed on Guam. Join programs where we get to travel and ask questions and learn about things happening in our region. This is the Pacific Century Fellows, Marianist Chapter with Jerry Tan and Mayor Mufi Hanneman of Honolulu. And so we were in Guam. This is one of Guam's caves. We wanted to explore the natural resources and wonders on the island of Guahan as well. So I just want to thank my friend Muñeca de Oro for being such a gracious host and guide and, you know, teaching us the ways of the land on Guahan. And then also, you know, we got to meet the local politicians. And then I joined another program, the Obama Leaders Program. Anytime there's a program available to me, I will apply. Even if I don't think I qualify, I will apply, and I encourage you to do the same. And so I continue to use this network to build my relationship and to build on the capacity of our Pacific. So this is at a regional level where it is inclusive of the Asia Pacific region. And I got to meet wonderful people that I look up to. This is Yolanda Joab Mari. These are some of your former legislators, Regine Biscoli and Julian Agun from Guahan. It was so nice to be together and just, you know, continue to explore and connect, make new connections. And then I got to meet President Obama, and I got to ask him a question. And I was so happy that I did. I was so humbled. And, you know, his answer was great. And it still guides me and the organizations that I serve and the boards that I'm on, and the big conversation about militarism in our Marianas. His advice and his answer helps guide us in our decision making and how we connect with our community. So if you haven't checked it out, it's on YouTube, or we can share the link. But it was such a nice experience to ask him a question. And so I just, you know, went back to work after that and continued to do what I love, and that's spend time with the kids and be in classrooms. Then before I knew it, it was time for the second term. And, you know, because of our time, I can't cover everything, but inclusive of my first term was a lot of research, a lot of reading, budget hearings, introduction of bills, House joint resolutions, trying to work on, getting strong statements of support for very controversial issues like militarism in the Marianas. But because, time goes on and nothing stops, it was time for re-election, so we campaigned again. This time I ran as a Democrat because I saw the power in working with the team, and I made it to the 22nd legislature. So here we are. That is the 22nd legislature. Those are my colleagues, and we just had a session today, so I just saw them all today. And I continue to support organizations and programs that encourage our youth to learn about our natural resources, how to protect them, how to promote conservation of our natural resources. And now doing it, in a professional capacity just brings more weight to the table. Next. That's me and my chairwoman. We still stay connected and join pickups together. These are me and my colleagues dropping off some relief goods for the IPI workers. I always love receiving cards made by our students and supporting extracurricular outdoor activities, utilizing our land in a responsible way, providing safe spaces for our kids and families to enjoy. And I also advocate for us on a larger scale at the United Nations, providing comment and information, insight on the buildup, the military buildup in the Marianas, and how that is connected in the Pacific, and how our leaders at that level need to be aware of it. Because if there's one thing I've learned being a legislator, is that you cannot expect your leaders to know everything about every issue. And so if there's an opportunity for you to advocate, do it, because your leaders are human too. And there's only so much we can, read in a day, or look up in a day, or research in a day, and there's only so much conversations we can have in a day. So if there's something important to you, reach out to your legislators, your leaders, and and use your voice. So I continue to work with our youth. This is me now as a chairwoman of the Natural Resources Committee. It is so different now being on the leadership end in the House of Representatives. I was a minority last term, and now we are the majority, but it is a very slim majority and of an unprecedented one, because there are 8 Democrats, 1 independent, and 2 Republicans in our leadership. And so this really forces us to compromise, communicate, and trust one another. And I think that's a great example that we need to be sharing with our youth and with our community. So I serve as the Natural Resources Chairwoman. I'm the Vice Chairwoman for the Education Committee. I am a member of the Ways and Means Committee, and I'm the floor leader for the SNILE delegation. So unlike Guam, in Saipan, we have smaller delegations, smaller groups of leaders in the legislature. We split up and we focus only on Saipan. Then the ROTA legislators, Senate and House included, they focus on the ROTA issues and appropriations, and then the Tinian leadership does that. So we like split up and we reorganize, right? And so going outside is still very important to me. Getting to know my community and the diversity that exists here is so important to me. This is us at our utilities corporation, making community visits, checking in on our first ever public restroom that we're trying to reopen at Paupau Beach. It's been a long project that I've been working on with Kensington, who adopted the beach, and that is one of our large hotels in the north side. This is their community benefit, and trying to incorporate a water catchment system and a rain garden, things like that. Those are all the extra things we do on the side, while still stay connected to our youth and encouraging them, like in this photo, to become active in the political process and environment, because it is an intimidating space. And that's one thing that I just want to encourage you all is that, you know, it's intimidating for everyone, even the leaders, you know. So come up to the hill, to your hill, and just know that it's your place. And I continue to just ensure that our children enjoy our beaches. So whatever my parents and my grandparents passed on to me, I do it for my nieces and nephews and my own children. When I have them one day, I will do that. But bringing them outside to enjoy our beauty, this blessing of an environment that was given to us as a responsibility to be good stewards is so important. The only way they will know the importance is for them to experience it. Because I believe that this responsibility we have to be the ancestors our descendants will thank is our utmost gracious, humbling responsibility that we have in this lifetime. So that's just a little bit about me. Before we move on to questions, I'd just like to touch up on some current issues. So we can go ahead and stop the screen sharing. And I just wanted to, you know, touch up on some current issues and just inform you of some of the ways that I contribute in my current role. And yes, I see your comment down here. I know I'm excited for the restroom too. Oh my goodness, you have no idea how long that took. I didn't think it would take that long to open a restroom, but it's so important, especially when we had the tourist boom. Okay, so some of the current issues that I just wanted to, you know, communicate today, because I know that our audience is extensive and it ranges from students to, you know, experienced professionals. On the island of Saipan, we do have the investigation of Governor Torres happening right now in the House JGO committee that has been reopened. And so there is an investigation going further into the spending of our governor in the past couple of years. Of course, there's pandemic that we're all living through, and it's impacted every area of our life, mental, emotional, financial, from yourself, your inner self, to your most outer, you know, global scale. And so the pandemic is still here and we are still dealing with that. We have the Article 12 discussion happening on Saipan right now. The public hearings are happening on Saipan, and Article 12 is an article in our CNMI Constitution that only allows for Chamorros and Carolinians, the indigenous people of the CNMI, to own property. Now, NMD, the language is so important, and that's one other thing that I learned in this role. The language is important. So NMD, as it is stated in the Constitution, is defined as a Chamorro or Carolinian who has a blood quantum to a certain degree. So this will last for generations. You just have to have that NMD to a certain degree, but it also includes those individuals who were here in the Marianas when we formed as the Commonwealth. And they are not Chamorro and Carolinian, but they were here and they were committed to living and contributing here. So they were given the status of an NMD. And so right now there is a legislative initiative introduced to abolish that protection. And, you know, the reason stated is for economic flexibility and movement for our investors. But it has sparked so much controversy, and so many people have been staying updated and providing public comment, and I'm very grateful for that. People who have never read Article 12 before are now educating themselves on it and gathering information and forming their own opinion, right? Because only you can form your own opinion. And, you know, the last current issue that I wanted to bring up was militarism and just federal regulations in our Marianas as a whole. This is everything from the military to NOAA and fisheries designating critical habitat areas in our water, forcing us to ask the federal government for permission to use our resources. I don't think that is the right path, but this is in the Commonwealth, and I do know and understand that we have different political statuses. Guam has a different political status than we do here in the CNMI, and so we are divided politically, but we are united culturally and historically because we are in the same Marianas chain. That's why we speak the same language, and that's why we eat the same delicious food, and we suffer from the same kinds of diseases and colonial impact, right? So, so that is something that is a conversation on a large scale that requires understanding before moving into that space, right? You need to read about it, learn about it, and I've been doing so much of that, and I encourage you to do the same. And you can reach out to your legislators to ask them their thoughts on it. But there's a lot of information online, and so whenever I am faced with issues, whether that be at the community level, certain families don't want this hotel being built next to their school, right next to a community school, or requests for water donations for a community event, right? There are issues like that in my line of work at the community level, at the precinct level. So the village, the precinct, the entire blue colored area, including the Northern Islands. Then there's the Saipan level, the Commonwealth level, our regional level, our federal level, and then our global level. So there's different levels of issues and different levels of decision making that happens. And they come through my desk all the time, right? And they come in phone calls, in the form of phone calls, emails, messages, all the time. And so it's very important for me that I set up my boundaries. I have to make time for myself and my family and my friends. And I have to realize my role on these certain issues. And how do I do that, right? You listen, you take them into consideration, you gather information, you reach out to the appropriate agencies, leaders and community members, and offer your support. How can I help? And you stay informed. But it is impossible to stay on top of every single issue and be at the forefront and the face of every single issue, because one person can't do it alone, right? And one person should not do it alone. We should do it together. And so you find your tribe, right? You find the people who are passionate about the same thing, you organize, and you follow through. I also serve as a link in my role. I provide support, resources, my network. However I can help, I will try my best. And I have a great team who's always there supporting many of the ideas that I have and many of the ways that I want to help our community. And the last way is I stay connected to the youth because they are our future. So it's so important to me to stay connected in programs and support organizations that prioritize our youth, their education, their health and well-being. And we just need to remember what it was like when we were a kid, right? And what resources we had and how we were treated. And so those are ways that I contribute to my community, and I enjoy it so much. Of course, we have our down days, and it gets very heavy when you're dealing with a lot of big topics. But the youth motivate me and they give me a lot of energy, and so does our natural resources. That's why I always make time to go outside. I have to remind myself constantly why I'm doing this work and why it's important. And every time I go outside, never fails. Never fails. Every time I'm at the beach, watching a sunset, I have my feet in the sand, on a boat, um, on a hike, never fails. It's always a great reminder that we were blessed with these natural resources and that it is our responsibility to ensure that it is here for future generations to enjoy. So now I can take questions. I think we have until 3:30. Just please correct me, Julian, if I'm wrong, but I'm very excited to engage with you. And I do have some giveaways. So these are fondulous necklaces with black sand from Agrigan. And they were made from one of our local artists, Quest Hafa Art, Annalie Villagomez. She is a very talented artist and she contributes to the youth so much too. Okay, so now Julian, I'm gonna hand it over to you.
Thank you, Representative Babauta. Your story really did inspire us. My colleagues and I are ready to submit our application for the next election here on Guam. But all jokes aside, you really did inspire us here today. We have a couple questions. Unfortunately, our time is really going to be short. It's actually it'll end at 3 o'clock. But let me just put some questions out. So one of our audience members, she's actually raising her hand right now. Her question was, what are your ideas on the regional plans for resiliency and sustainability, given the threats of the climate crisis?
That is an awesome question. There are so many things we can do and that we need to do. And unfortunately, sometimes it's more difficult than you think to get everyone on the same page, right? So just today, I introduced the plastic bag ban bill for the island of Saipan and the entire Commonwealth, actually. So we can all do something, right? We can all do something. Reuse your plastic bottles, say no to that extra straw. Education and awareness is key because it's the consumer that drives it. The more we buy, the more they will make. And so stop using it. Sometimes I just want to tell people like, man, let's just cut back and let's increase excise taxes so that we don't import these plastics anymore and that we can address it in some way instead of contributing to the problem. We're on an island. We don't make these things here. We are importing all of it. And on top of that, we need to address the marine debris that just comes in from the ocean. Like, who knows where this came from, right? We have that great Pacific garbage patch in the middle of the Pacific. And I was told just recently that there's one behind the island of Saipan, like a small patch of trash. And I couldn't believe it because I've never been like boating around the island. So I wouldn't know it's there. So out of sight, out of mind, right? The first thing we can do is bring it to the forefront and bring it to your site, right? Like bring it to the site of our community so people can see it. And this is why being outside is so important to me, and bringing my family and children outside is so important, because once they see all that trash, they will ask questions and it starts there. But at the end of the day, policy matters, language matters, and sometimes that's just how you have to, that's the path that you have to take to curb social behavior. I think that media plays an important, powerful role with educating our community, and shifting culture. And I think that this generation is so empowered to shift culture. Like, we are here to say that we love this planet, and there's no other planet that's made for us. We don't have a backup plan. And so we are here to push the movement. And, if that's something that's important to you, like reach out, do research, see what other places are doing. Can you believe that the CNMI is one of the last places in the region to not ban plastic bags? Like, what the heck? We need to catch up. Like, why are we so behind? And, sometimes we are so focused on our own lives and on our own problems and on social media that we fail to pick our head up and look around and see what our neighbors are doing and see where our neighbors need help. And that's one thing that I like to encourage you to do, because offering your hand and your support and asking questions from your neighbors, your fellow leaders, is it's just so important to your growth. And so in my role, I am starting with policy.
Thank you, Representative Sheila. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have today. But before we end, I will be turning it back over to our dean just to close us out. And I think the dean had always asked that one question for all our speakers. So, Dean.
Absolutely. I can't believe that we're already up with time, right? I mean, there's so much I think that we still want to engage you in. So we're going to have to invite you back, Representative Sheila, to join us again and have a more interactive exchange.
Of course. And if you and your team and anyone else has extra time, I can definitely stay back for 15, 20 minutes and answer any questions if your team will allow.
Okay, well, I'm down for that. So anyone who wants to stick around for 15 more minutes, please feel free to do so and we'll continue the dialogue. But for those who have to leave, one of the questions that I like to ask is, could you share with the audience what 3 things inspire you? Maybe books, podcasts, where do you get your inspiration from, aside from the beach and all the wonderful things that you shared with us today?
Yeah, so where I get my inspiration, the 3, like you said, is really spending time outside, spending time with our youth, and spending time with our elderly. And I tell everybody this because that's where you can capture experience, you can gain motivation for the future, and you can find gratitude for your environment, right? But when it comes to books and podcasts, I'm a huge podcast person, and I'm a huge self-healing growth person. I believe that we all have the power to heal ourselves, and we don't have to seek, therapists if we don't have the means to, because our people are struggling enough already, and there's a huge stigma around mental health. But man, nowadays, social media, Instagram, Facebook, the internet, there's so much information out there that can help you. But I would sift through that information. Not everything that's online and that's free is accurate, right? So use your best judgment. But right now, and I listen to a variety of podcasts and I read a variety of books. I also use Audible. So you find what works for you, right? Because I can have stacks of books sitting in my office or at home that I don't finish. And so I realized that Audible works for me, and I can finish a book, 3 books in a week when you speed it up. And so right now I'm reading Captivate. And goodness, I think her name is Vanessa Hudgens. No,
That's an
you all know who Vanessa Hudgens. Captivate is a book that really helps us learn more about human connection and how we can be better communicators in our personal. Yes, Vanessa Van Edwards. Thank you, Jaren Agud, so much, because I was about to Google it right here. But that book has really provided much insight and is research-based. I love and I am so addicted to research and data-based podcasts and books because I believe in science.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So great. Everyone look up that book, Captivate, and
Yeah.
maybe that could be your read over the break. Okay.
Yes.
Jaren included the link in the chat.
Great. And if I may just recommend one podcast today, because I love so many, the one that I'm currently listening to is the Minimalist podcast. And I sought them out after I watched The Minimalist on Netflix. And that is a documentary and a paired podcast that I would highly recommend because it really changes and it forces you to assess your situation and your values and how much value you place in things.
Mhm.
And so I think if we can reevaluate that, we can also reduce our usage and save our planet.
Awesome.
Okay,
I think those are
that's all.
two excellent recommendations. So if you're still available, let's entertain more questions. So Jaren, Julian, you want to?
Okay. I have the list of questions right here, but
Yes.
just for everyone's awareness, Jaren did post the link to the Minimalist podcast. Jaren's very good with finding all our links.
Jaren, thank you, Jaren.
So on to our next question. Could you advise how the youth of the Marianas could take part in influencing and innovating public policy?
How the youth can do
Mhm.
that?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, the youth are so powerful. I think only when one realizes one's power can one actually deliver, right? And take action. So the youth, if they can organize and if they can provide research, policy recommendations, and public comment on the Hill, we love it when the youth come up to the Hill and make public comments. So right now there's also, and the youth, right, ranges in age. And so right now we just announced our winners for the Youth Congress. So if you're in that age range or if you have children in that age range, encourage them to run for the Youth Congress. It's not something that the youth is normally excited to take part in when you're in high school, right? They want to do other fun things with their friends. But if your child or someone is so passionate about the community events that are happening or the negative things around them, then encourage them to join the Youth Congress. That's where they can learn the structure of government and the arena of politics, because it is, I heard a quote that politics is someone said politics is 90% relationships, and was corrected, and that person said no, it's 95% relationship. So politics is all about relationships and how you communicate with others, how you can compromise, and how you can work together to find solutions to common problems, right? So humility is key. Humility is key as well, because when someone tells you your idea sucks, right? You just gotta ask them, how can I make it better? So the youth coming up, if they are not of age to join the Youth Congress, then coming up to make a public comment is a great way. Writing to your legislators is another great way. We take our youth seriously. Yeah, I do.
Thank you, Representative Sheila. So our next question is, as a representative, can you share an extremely challenging moment that you've had during the pandemic?
During the pandemic, extremely challenging part. Well, and I'm sure it was so challenging for all of us, addressing something so new, but not quite new, right? Because we're Indigenous peoples and pandemics have happened to us before. So it is in our genetics. When the Spanish arrived, they did not discover this place. when they arrive, they introduce disease. And so this is not the first time our people have gone through this. And I digress. Okay, but one of the most difficult decisions I had to make during the pandemic was whether I was going to run again and whether I was going to run as an independent or as a Democrat. That was a very difficult decision for me. I had to assess all my risks. I had to contact my supporters and see, you know, what their thoughts were on the matter. My parents, my chairwoman and chairman, you have to seek counsel, right? From a variety of people, especially those who don't agree with you or those who are on the other side, right? When we're all from the CNMI, but I got very good feedback and, decided to file my petition again. So that was a very difficult decision I had to make because at the end of the day, we receive $32,000 a year as legislators here in the Commonwealth. And that's about $975 a paycheck. And it's very hard to pay for your student loans and to rent an apartment and, pay for gas and your vehicle. And, it can become very challenging to motivate yourself to serve the community when you are struggling personally. And so, that was a decision that I really had to take seriously because of my future, because of my family's future, right? My retirement, like saving for my retirement, paying off my student loans that has now been delayed because I can't pay it off faster than I planned to. I took a 50% cut when I ran for office. I wasn't making this kind of money before, and I had to readjust my life. And that was okay as long as I made that choice. That was my choice to make. And so I made the choice and I accepted it. And you find other ways to have fun, right? Like go to the beach because it's free. So yeah, it was a tough time. Oh, of course, it's free to be honest. So I will be honest. Thanks for that comment. So that that was a big decision on a professional and personal level. Yeah, I hope that answers it.
No, that answered it to the fullest extent. Thank you, Representative Sheila. So the University of Guam and the School of Business and Public Admin, we have a partnership with the Northern Marianas College, in which the students or our Triton students at NMC could earn a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. So we have, as graduation season is coming up, we're expecting to graduate a few of our Tritons out there in NMC. So our question for you is, do you have any, words of advice or, guidance on how to find a mentor for these students who are just about to get their bachelor's in criminal justice?
Oh, that is such a great question because I wish that I had like my list of mentors just lined up and waiting for me once I graduated, But I would really offer the advice of get involved with what you love to do, and then your mentor will show up. Because there's no point in seeking out a mentor in the field of law if you don't even enjoy it and truly want to do something else. And so I would first really encourage the students to get involved through volunteer work, internships, figure out what you want to do, because this is not something that I went to school for. I did not think I was going to serve as a public elected official. I went to school to become a business person. That's what I told myself ever since I was a young girl, that I was going to own my own business so that I can pay for my own bills and I can have my own schedule, right? No one's going to tell me what time to go to work. And I was glad I got that experience in Washington and realized how hard it is for small business owners. Man, props to all small business owners. It's a lot of work. But I got involved by, my goodness, I was doing everything from volunteering at a food bank to babysitting and watching kids while their parents, went to church, at a daycare. And I would really encourage students to first do that, right? You got to find what you want to do, and how you want to serve your community. I think it really starts there, and then your mentor will show up. If you already know that, then you might want to do some research and find the key leaders in that movement that you are so interested or passionate about. So, for example, the movement on educating our community about the growing military presence here and how destructive it is. I didn't even realize how many of our community leaders have been involved in it for years. And so when I got on board and I learned more about it, I met so many of them and they educated me in different ways, right? The legal aspect, the community aspect, the environmental aspect, the federal aspect, the political status aspect, international rights aspect. Like, they will come and they will want to offer support. But if you already know your path and you're very confident, then do your research and seek them out and give them a call. Yeah, you can just give them a call here in the CNMI, and I'm sure it's this way on Guam too. One of our strengths is that we're so small, right? And I hear that a lot. I only heard that when I came home, that one of our strengths of being a small island is that we can reach out. Like, people text me all the time, and they'll send me messages on Facebook, or they'll just show up at my parents' house. Like, that's something that is unheard of on the mainland. To just like call your representative, right? Or show up to their house. But that's something that we can take advantage of here. And that's something that is not only accessible or inclusive of your legislators, it's all leaders, all local leaders. So I would find someone that you want to be like in the future. Just find someone you want to be like, reach out to them, tell them what you admire about them, and what you want to learn from them or hope to learn from them. And I can almost guarantee you that they will offer you some kind of support because you have already flattered them.
It's a good thing Jaren and I and Iris were taking notes. So we'll be able to send this out to everyone else watching. But thank you. I think that's a lot of valuable insight for our students, not just for our students out there in NMC, but for our whole student body. I think we could really use
I remember what it was like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of wraps up all the questions that we received on our end. If anyone in the audience wants to ask any questions, but while we wait, we just want to present something for you. We had right here. I hope
my
you can,
certificate.
Everyone see this. Everything looks good.
Yes.
All right, so thank you, Representative Sheila, for imparting your valuable insights and inspirations to our students, faculty members, and staff members here at the University of Guam School of Business and Public Administration during our SBPA Office of the Dean Speaker series, given this 23rd day of April 2021. And Dean, did you have any words that you wanted to say while we're on the screen?
Oh, yes. Oh, Dean, go ahead.
Oh, me or the representative? I want to say thank you. In addition to this, thank you so much for your authenticity today. As Islanders, I think we're naturally honest. We're naturally generous with our advice, and we're so happy to see that today. And I do encourage anyone who's joining here. I know that several people who knew I was featuring you today just talked about how much they loved you and admired you, and I wanted you to know that. And so the audience there shares the love and respect and admiration for the tremendous work that you're doing, and the future is still full of opportunities for you to continue leading the way And you're the kind of leader that brings people along with her. And I'm hoping that there are some folks in here whose hands you're going to lift up to help make positive strides for our islands across the Marianas. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much. That was so meaningful.
All right, that kind of wraps up everything. Representative Sheila, if you had any, like maybe last advice you want to give, and before that, we're just gonna, Iris will play some music as we, exit. So thank you everyone for.
So dramatic.
Yeah,
Well,
very
thank you
dramatic.
very much for having me. I'm so humbled. Dean, that was very beautiful. And I just want to reassure you all that, there are leaders who really care. And we do take you with us in every meeting, every house session. I take you with me, and that was part of my inauguration speech. That's why I'm really glad that you said that, because I wanted to reassure our constituents that your hopes and your dreams and your concerns and your issues, they're in our toolbox, and we take it with us everywhere we go. And when we know we can make a link happen, if we can serve as the link or offer support in any way, we remember those things. And we just really want to do this for our Marianas, our entire Marianas. And so thank you for having me today. And I am so, so grateful to have shared this space with you. Can't wait for my certificate so I can put it in my office.
All right, so Iris, take it away with our music. And everyone, thank you again for participating in the SBPA Dean Speaker Series. If you have any questions or comments, you can email us. Darren will put it in the chat. We'll forward it to our representative, and this will be available on YouTube pretty soon. So thank you, everyone.
Bye, have a nice weekend.